The dream of peanut butter and jam on bread is where Denji's story in Chainsaw Man begins. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know what time it is? It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly.
You gonna make me act up.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You got that right. Denji ends up fulfilling this dream. But let's start from the very beginning. Denji lives in extreme poverty thanks to a crippling amount of debt and does not understand the concept of happiness, let alone imagining grand things like children his age do. Denji could barely even make it through a day without being hungry or almost dying. From such a situation to learning about himself, the world and people, Denji got manipulated into a cunning scheme and lost everything. Even though it's a devastating story described as a downward spiral, ironically, Denji still has more than he began with. In chapter 1, we come to know that Denji was barely scraping through life all by himself. His mother had passed away long before, and his father had provided him a traumatic and abusive childhood, where we discover later he decided one fateful day to,
I am going to commit suicide.
This unfortunate event left Denji to fend for himself with a debt of more than 38 million yen. And that's after he had already sold a bunch of his organs, including one of his eyes, a kidney, and a freaking testicle. And to pay it all off, Denji had to work his ass off at any, and I mean any job he could get his hands on, even becoming a stripper, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, boy.
Okay, maybe I made that one up, but you get the point of how far he had to go, including working at the beck and call of his father's cruel creditors. He sometimes could only eat one slice of bread a day, which he used to share with his pet dog Pochita. Pochita was more than a regular pet for Denji, because he wasn't just a devil, but also the reason Denji was able to survive. In fact, they both were each other's beacons of hope in life. Denji had found Pochita near his father's grave and almost resigned to his inevitable death before realizing that Pochita himself was gravely injured and on the verge of death. Now, because devils can regenerate by drinking blood, Denji offered his own to Pochita, all under the condition that he would help Denji in exchange. And so began the sad story of the best duo. Oh my god, I'm getting emotional already, guys. Being the Chainsaw Man.
Stop the cap.
Being the Chainsaw Man devil, Pochita acted like a chainsaw for Denji to chop down trees, and eventually Denji became an unofficial devil hunter using Pochita as a weapon to help him earn more money. This also helped him gain some favor from the creditor, who hired Denji as their personal devil hunter, since they wanted to keep the corpse from the devils, but an official devil hunter wouldn't allow them to do that. So all the major spoils from Denji's kills went to the creditors, and he was left with a measly amount to go by. Even then, just being with Pochita and dreaming with him of a normal life was enough for Denji. After all, Pochita was the only one who would listen to him talk or understand his pain. He was happy as long as he could dream about butter and jam on toast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's peanut butter jelly time once again. Let's be serious. He was happy as long as he could dream about butter and jam on toast, something that other people think of as nothing significant. Not me though, I like peanut butter jelly sandwiches in the morning for my breakfast every other day, I'm just saying. Overall, Denji wanted to have a bed, play video games, and talk to girls. All what we consider everyday things, right? Except for the part about talking to girls, because none of you get no bitches, let's be honest.
You actually get no bitches. Yeah, you get no bitches.
Even such tiny things meant a lot to Denji because it was all out of his reach. To him, a lifestyle that could afford to put anything on his plate at breakfast every day was nothing short of a luxury. This is the truth of society, that what is insignificant and the bare minimum for someone is an unaffordable luxury for someone else. However, Denji was willing to do anything to preserve his bare minimum life because in his perspective, he would never have anything more than dreams of a better life. Denji had never received treatment as a human, and the concept of self-worth or respect was far beyond him. We see him going as far as pretending to eat a cigarette if it meant he had 100 yen to feed himself and Pochita. So really, according to Denji, he was no different from Pochita. Nobody had told him he was a human or gave empathy. Even as a child, this was a reoccurring theme. He had simply come to resign to his fate. Now, since he had been through all of this, Denji was someone who had found contentment in absolutely nothing. So Makima's offer of living as a devil hunter provided him a golden chance at normalcy. He had never thought he would get it, and therefore he says, "Yes, Makima, I would like to become your dog." Woof, woof, woof. Let's break this down even further by using the future arcs and how Denji develops. He eventually becomes a devil hunter, and he tells Aki in chapter 3 that he would rather die with his shallow reason to keep living an average life rather than find some noble reason to become a devil hunter. At the end of the day, that's what Denji truly is. Just shallow. In chapter 1, we see Denji's flashback where he tells Pochita that he would probably die fighting devils. He knew that the only way he could escape from the Yakuza was for him to die. There was no scope for normalcy in his life, which gave birth to a fearlessness. Denji would throw himself into anything, even a bunch of zombies, if it meant he could sleep peacefully in the night. After becoming a devil hunter, Denji ate udon for the first time, but more importantly, he was treated like a human. His seemingly endless horniness that made him want to hug a girl, touch some boobs, and even, have sex arises from his lack of happiness. For a teenager like Denji, these perverted fantasies seemed like the closest thing he could do to find happiness. But even when he did that, thanks to power, he didn't feel anything extraordinary. It wasn't as monumentally life-altering, like, oh my god, like what's going on, my mind's blasting. It was rather a fleeting feeling. It made Denji question if there was something wrong with him.
Look, man, I am suffering.
This is because whilst Denji's need for happiness and freedom took on the form of these fantasies, they evolved over time. As a stark contrast to the beginning, Denji's end goal turned into protecting and fighting for his friends, dead or alive. All this stemmed from Denji's abusive childhood, which hadn't made him a badass, but instead made him an emotionally stunted teenager. Sure, he could jump into fights like against the Eternity Devil because he had nothing more to lose. But he still had an incredible drive to survive through anything. He wanted to live and enjoy things like sleeping on a twin bed. The lack of a proper fostering environment deeply impacted Denji's psyche to the point that he did not understand the concept of emotions at all, like happiness or friendship or fear. We as humans are a product of our environment. Therefore, he had no clue about human bonds or what they could mean. But even if he couldn't put a label on it, the only emotion he had felt strongly was fear. He was terrified of his father and his relentless abuse, as any kid his age would be. But what's a shocking revelation later on is that Denji had also killed his father.
What?
It was a traumatic memory he had buried behind the metaphorical mental door because even he didn't understand the consequences of it. Eternally, he was conflicted. It was better to be a slave of work rather than abuse, but it did leave a deep scar in his mind. He had turned into a killer who had no clue about right or wrong. His actions had always haunted him as the door that shouldn't be opened, as Pochita tells him. But Makima knew exactly when it would hurt Denji the most to realize the extent of what he had done. And that wasn't when Denji had just joined the Devil Hunters. Rather, it was when Denji had finally become more human after experiencing emotions like love and friendship to their fullest. Only when a metal is heated can one strike to bend it. And that's exactly what Makima did. She set up Denji to embrace normality to the point that he he became relatively so much happier than before, which created a handicap. I mean, of course, if you take away everything a person takes for granted, it would irreparably hurt them. So the first step in Makima's plan was to surround Denji with people who would create and foster emotions in him. We saw how Denji couldn't process the fear he felt when Aki turned into the gun fiend, or the sadness upon Power's death. Hell, he couldn't even tell the difference between the kinds of emotions he felt for the women around him like Reze and Makima. And most importantly, he couldn't bring himself to hate Makima even after everything she had done to him by the end of the story. He still loved her very deeply, even though Makima had never cared about who he really was. Like Denji says, she had never looked at him as Denji, only Chainsaw Man. But to understand Denji's downward spiral, we now need to break down his relationship with each and every character in part 1, as this shapes his character for part 2 and the overall story. We then move on to Himeno, another important person that affected the story. Himeno was Denji's senior for a short while and left a deep impact on him. She was one of the girls whom he was attracted to, but not really. While she is generally very empathetic and caring, there's a sort of hypocritical side of her that puts a strain on how we can define the relations between the two. She acts cheerfully and carelessly when off duty, as seen during the party at a bar, where she even kissed, or should I say the viral scene where everyone's talking about, she barfed inside of Denji's mouth. Like, oh shit, some of you would actually like that shit. You guys are kinky out there, I seen that shit. Anyway, I'm just saying, let's get back to the point. And they do end up getting him to sleep at her place. The next morning, she was worried as she wondered if she had engaged in something sexual with Denji, who was underage at the time. During missions though, she can be pretty stern. Unlike most devil hunters, Himeno deeply cares for her subordinates and even protected Denji from Kobani's reckless attack. However, she was ready to sacrifice him for Aki at any given time. Still, the two were on good terms, as Denji learned quite a bit from life from Himeno. Denji tried to absorb her worldviews and understand why people like Aki act in a certain way, which has certainly contributed to awakening positive feelings in Denji. Himeno's death left a deep impact on Denji's character in a rather unexpected way. Whilst he was sad, Denji was more worried about the fact that he couldn't cry, although the people around him were sobbing their eyes out. To him, this invalidated his existence as a human. His only knowledge about humans and bonds came from what he had heard or seen, and Denji, he couldn't shed a single tear. Himeno was his first kiss, and one of the only people so far to ever treat him like a human. To him, she was sort of special, but he could never understand it. Still, this was how Himeno set the base for creating meaningful bonds for Denji, setting a cornerstone for him regarding what friendships are and how to process human feelings.
This brings us on to what might be one of my favourite dynamics in all of anime and manga. If somehow any of you degenerates ship Denji and Power, then I would like to personally diagnose you with the celestially down bad syndrome, because you're more down bad than Denji. Power has never showered in her life, so you know that pussy stank, fam.
Ming Dynasty pussy got me acting unwise.
Anyway, Fujimoto has built one of the strongest platonic relationships in all of anime and manga with Denji and Power, combating all of the stigmas around friendships of people belonging to different sexes. At the start of the series, Denji was simping for Power because, well, boobies. However, he did have a soft spot for her as she only wanted to save her cat, similar to his relationship with Pochita. When he finally got to touch her tits, it didn't really feel special, and since that day something different awoke in Denji. He started feeling conflicted about his feelings, wondering if what he feels has a term or meaning behind it. Throughout the series, the two have always matched each other's wavelength and brain cells, participating in pulling stupid pranks on Aki, fighting, and much more. This was highlighted in their training arc to become stronger with Kishibe, as their wavelength matched in stupidity, creativity, and actions that actually impressed him on how much they progressed in such a short span of time. Their relationship relationship entered its hardest time after the International Assassins arc, as they encountered the Darkness Devil. This encounter killed most people, and out of those who did survive, only a few could get a hold of their sanity. Unfortunately, Power was not one of them. For months, Power suffered from extreme PTSD as she feared the Darkness Devil at all times. Out of everybody, she trusted Denji and Aki the most and spent most of her days clinging to the former. She had Denji check if the Darkness Devil was inside her mouth or behind her, or if he was stalking her while she slept. In fact, she couldn't even sleep well because it would get dark when she closed her eyes. Denji had to even give her a bath, dress her up, and just do everything. Now, a lot of people assumed that things between the two were going to take a romantic turn, as Denji prioritized Power over his trip with Makima. However, Fujimoto made it apparent that the two were still in a platonic relationship, as neither of the two felt any sort of romantic and or sexual attraction towards each other. Even when the two shared a bathtub, Denji didn't feel any type of way, cementing his feelings for Power. By now, most men in the situation would have taken this as a hint, but Denji understood what it meant. A person will have a different type of relationship with everybody. Even platonic and romantic relationships will differ from person to person. The only boundaries in a relationship exist as to what the two involved create. And to Denji, there isn't anything inherently sexual unless he truly feels like he loves that person. For proof, Denji ate away the flowers he was sitting with in Reze's cafe as Power showed up there and saw him. He didn't want to do anything even slightly romantic for her as it could hamper their relationship, which he clearly didn't want to do. Now, when talking about love in Chainsaw Man, Reze and Denji are two names that will pop first in the minds of almost everybody. Throughout Denji's adventures of self-exploration and humans, I am confident to say that Reze was Denji's true romantic interest. Ever since Denji met her, he felt a different spark around her. Something about her eyes, her smile, and the way that she just touched his hand felt different. Reze plays a vital role of the romantic interest in Denji's life as she enters as a conflict between him and Makima, whom he considered to be his love. Throughout his time with Reze, Denji is second guessing the time he spends with her. Here, he isn't necessarily wondering if what he feels for Reze is true at all times, rather his focus is on what he feels for Makima. For someone like Denji, who only had minimal contact with humans so far, all he knows is girls, titties, love. But he understands that a person can only truly be in love with one other. During this time, Denji stated that he would choose Reze over Makima even if it meant to run away with her to any corner of the world. Just like his friends we explained earlier had taught him, where Himeno had sacrificed her own dreams and needs for the bonds they had, Denji did everything he could to save Reze's life. Therefore, we have solidified that Denji was genuinely attracted to Reze both mentally and sexually. Through this love triangle conflict, Denji realized that to him, Makima was more of a mother figure rather than a lover. Makima found Denji at an abandoned warehouse where he was supposed to kill a devil as usual. However, this job turned out to be far more difficult, eventually forcing Denji to form a contract with Pochita, giving birth to the Chainsaw Man. Whilst Makima had come to kill the Chainsaw Devil, she took a step back as this devil had become more of a fiend, that too an intelligent one. Here, an intelligent hybrid means someone who is part devil but still holds their consciousness and stuff. There isn't a single possibility in the vast multiverse where Denji would be smart. Trust me. Now this was only possible because of the special contract Pochita formed with Denji, and it proved to be a boon for Denji as Makima recruited him as a devil hunter. So what did Denji feel for Makima? Gratitude. What did he mistake it for? Love. Now, a big reason behind this is because Makima is the control devil, but let's just keep that to one side for a bit. In the few first arcs, Denji's love for Makima was believed to be romantic, even by himself. He'd constantly think about doing it with her and stuff. But things changed after two important moments. Makima teaches Denji about love and the Reze love triangle. In a conversation, Denji told Makima that he got to feel titties for the first time but didn't feel anything special. To this, Makima said that to her, physical intimacy only feels good with someone whom she genuinely loves. Throughout their meets, Makima made sure to touch Denji in ways that were confusing, and even said things to make him feel that love. When Denji asked her about her type, she said someone like this boy named Denji, and when Denji asked if he had a heart, she'd lean onto him and try to listen to his heartbeat to confirm, and even talk about what kind of love feels good. He's got mommy issues, everyone. Like, he's just like us for real. You see, Denji's mother had died at an early age, and deep inside, Denji always longed for a loving family, instead of a piece of shit father who had left him with so much debt that he had to sell off one of his balls. And Makima came into his life as a saviour, a woman who'd got him out of a debt trap, gave him her jacket, warm food, a place to stay, a job, and a respectable life. Denji was eternally grateful to her. However, Makima's manipulative nature, Denji's lack of human understanding, and the fact that this woman is the control devil, our poor boy believed that he was in love romantically. This led him to make many decisions, most of them for the worse. Until the end of part 1, Makima has completely manipulated Denji. Trust me, I hate to say this so much, but nothing that she did for Denji was out of any empathetic feeling. From the very start, all she cared about was the chainsaw devil, Pochita, not Denji. In fact, she didn't even know what he looked like, she only knew his smell, which represented the chainsaw devil in reality. Knowing that she could not triumph over the hero of hell easily, the control devil started to weave a trap that would make Denji, the boy who believed that there was no bottom left, truly hit rock bottom. She gave him all sorts of happiness, food, love, family, even motherly love, respect, self-confidence, material satisfaction, and any other thing that you can think of for a relatively elongated period of time, to create a new standard of normal for the child. Then, one by one, she gouged them away slowly and painfully. First, she made him kill Aki, his older brother, then she killed his younger sister Power in front of him. And as she admitted to all of this, she laughed maniacally. She was so overjoyed that she was successful in controlling and ruining the life of a naive child who knew nothing about the world. Her satisfaction came from his despair, as he wondered if he could have prevented any of this. After running out of breath from laughing, she berated him, saying that he could have saved Aki and that he could have saved Power only if he was capable enough to be anything but a dog. At this point, Denji already submitted his life to Makima, his mother figure who had saved his life, or so he believed. So far, things had somehow worked out for him until the moments he felt like he had to make a decision. Now that he was truly Makima's dog, he believed that he would get to live the easy life yet again. However, the stars would not align this time. He had to suffer immeasurably. Makima started off by opening the door inside Denji's mind, the one that Pochita had protected for so long. This door, as you may be aware, hid Denji's biggest trauma. It hid the fact that his father never really committed suicide and that he was the one that had killed him. Makima was successful in making the child Denji believe that he did not deserve a life. When this happened, I believed that Denji was done for and his only hope would be in his overwhelmingly strong will to live. However, there was more to Denji than just his bratty determination. There was Pochita too. As Makima, the control devil, believed that the chainsaw devil was above her, Pochita managed to help Denji break out of her manipulation, eventually leading to her death. Whilst this may be a happy ending, Denji's life has been nothing short of a tragedy. This man, even after killing Makima, believed that he loved her, and it was true. He still loved her as a motherly figure, and there was nothing he could do about it. She was the one who brought all forms of happiness to him in the end, no matter what the true intentions were. She was the only thing close to a family that he had ever known, and unfortunately, this was the only thing that truly mattered to him. Throughout the medium, you'll rarely come across protagonists or characters even who are as subtly developed as Denji. On the surface, he could be claimed to be a rather consistent character with noticeable but slight changes throughout the run of a plot, but in actuality, he's a truly well-written tragic protagonist. And that is the depressing reality of Denji. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I recommend you check the one on your screen right now, because that too is a banger.